we'll open it up for questions.
All right, no questions?
Coach, say, Coach, what's the challenge for you when bringing all these new players and coming in with a new system, and new players from other programs, and trying to indoctrinate them?
Yeah, I think those that have listened to me since I received the blessing of being at Auburn would know that I'm really transparent about the anxiety, I guess, and fear you have of. I mean, I've done this a long time at every different level, from high school to small NAIA to the SEC and Sun Belt and everywhere in between, and then recently at Liberty, and we've had success. But and what you're asking is what really, when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're asking yourself, does my way still work? Does culture and team building and, hey, let's play a little bit better than maybe we really are? I mean, all of those things are going through your mind when you have a team that we just really tried to transform in a period of just a few months. And now we've got to blend it together in a short amount of time to try to compete in the toughest conference in America. And I've never had to do that before. And so it certainly is something that weighs on my mind for sure, and it's going to be a challenge for our staff and myself and our locker room and the leadership of the locker room. And so it is new. I think we're probably not the only ones experiencing it, so I don't want to set up here and act like it's just an us deal that we've got that we're challenged with. But we certainly, I don't know the exact number, you guys probably do, but we've tried to improve our roster through the new ways of the portal and high school recruiting, and it's quite a few new faces in a short amount of time that we've got to try to gel together to be a unit. So it creates a little, I mean, you wonder.
How's it coming along?
Well, this is probably not the greatest time to ask me that, because May is the time where they finish exams. They kind of get a breather away from us, and now they reported back. I guess today's our first day of non-discretionary workouts, so we'll start seeing today. I talked to all the coaches and strength staff this morning and kind of gave them what my thoughts were of how we needed to start this summer, and we'll be kind of excited to see the report later today sometime.
Coach, the rivalry between you and Georgia, Auburn and Georgia, how big is that? We're talking about the future here in Destin. How big is that, and how much are you going to pitch to keep a game like that every year?
Well, it's huge. I mean, our fans, and I'm sure their fans too, and it goes back so far, and it's important. It's important that we give our fans and their fans. I'm sure it's important that game remains vital to us. Now, what that looks like in respect to what is best for the Southeastern Conference, man, I don't know. I'm not in those discussions, and I try not to. I've got enough to worry about with everything that I have on my plate, that when people ask me about 8 or 9 games, I'm like, talk to Dr. Roberts and John Cohen. What is best for Auburn? What is best for the SEC? Are those things the same? I know all those discussions will take place. From a football coach's perspective, the biggest question I would have is just, as important as those games are to us, how does the playoff look at it? If you're an SEC opponent and you're really quality and you've won a lot of good games, but you drop 2 to top teams, or a third one, do you still get in? When the playoff expands? And I think all of those are unknowns. So ultimately, I think we as coaches just say, hey, give us our marching orders, tell us what it is and what is best for our conference, and hopefully it aligns with what's best for our school. But ultimately, I think it's in the right hands, with it being in the ADs and presidents and obviously the commissioner and his staff. So whatever comes out of that, then let's go do it.
How
So-
spirited do
so
you think those discussions will be in the meetings this week?
Say,
How spirited do you think those discussions about whether to go 8 or 9 will be this week?
I honestly don't think it's gonna be real spirited within the coaches' room. I think all will say what I say is, we all can have an opinion in here, but ultimately, our presidents and ADs are gonna do what's best for our school. And knowing the coaches that I know in that room, all of us are we just tell us what we're doing, and then we gotta go try to get prepared to do it.
You talked about players reporting back today and getting back on with summer workouts. Do you currently have any football players that are on suspension in regards to from the university standpoint?
Yeah, we don't comment on individuals, and their status with any disciplinary issues within our school, and so I really don't have a comment on that.
So would you prefer 8 or 9 games?
Again, what is best for Auburn? And I don't know that I'm the authority to say that. Are you guys gonna put us in with 3 losses in the playoffs if we run the table on everybody else? All of those things are what coaches, are gonna think about is, how do we best position ourselves and satisfy, our fans, and all of that's kind of difficult. But I love coaching in big games, and our players love playing in big games at Auburn. They have in the past, and I want to get that back. So, there's so many unknowns with what's coming in the future. And then, I hadn't even talked about the money stuff and thank God I'm not in those discussions with the TV money and what that means to each institution. And I think our ADs and presidents will make the right decision along with Commissioner Sankey.
Billy raised kind of a similar topic in terms of the playoff and future scheduling. How do you answer that question though this week when those parties will not be involved in the discussion?
Yeah, I don't think we'll get that answer. And again, that's for us coaches is stuff that weighs on our mind, but it's not going to, we're not going to have the answer to that. And so I think we just revert back to our ADs and our presidents and Commissioner Sankey and his staff. Just give us our marching orders, whatever we decide. I read where Commissioner Sankey, and I hadn't kept up with a lot, but he just said it's time for the plane to land. And I think that we coaches are just kind of the same way, is tell us what is best for our conference. And you'd love for that to align perfectly with what's best for your school, but ultimately we got to do what's best for the conference. And we coaches, we're not going to know the answer to, do we get in the playoff with 3 losses? Do we get in with 2 losses? We'll never know that. So just give us we'll get the answer to that soon, hopefully, and we'll move forward.
Do you think you have an answer on tampering, and do you expect that to be a subject of discussion among coaches this week?
I would expect it to come up. I don't think my answer is yes, I do have my preference and answer. Is it doable in today's time? I would love to see it go back to players not being able to transfer and be immediately eligible unless the coach leaves or is fired or they graduate. And I think that eliminates tampering. People are not going to come take players if they have to set out unless it's one of those 2 reasons. I think they have a right to do that, but I don't think that will ever happen again. So outside of that, I don't know how you really stop some of the discussions that will take place. And they're happening, they happen a lot of different ways. And I don't know that it's always the school that starts it. And so it's going to be very difficult, I think, to eliminate that totally, unless you go back to some of the transfer modifying them, which I don't think it'll ever go back to.
The sport seems to be getting more professionalized by the day, and it's more transactional, whether it's transfer portal, NIL, as you mentioned, and you said that things have changed just so drastically just since you got back into SEC football. In your opinion, are we losing a sense of what college sports is supposed to be about, and how are you wrestling with that now at Auburn, where that comes up daily, all this other stuff we're talking about here in this room?
So it's an incredible question that's going to probably get me praised by some and criticized by some, but I'm very transparent with it. I am very, very glad that young men, I've been blessed to provide for my wife and children, and got 2 grandchildren on the way, a life because of young men that have done well at, go back to Lambeth, Arkansas State, wherever, Liberty, Ole Miss, Auburn. And so I think it's incredibly good that they can benefit off of some of the blessings that we've all received from our great game. I wish we would have had the foresight to plan better and have a better plan that is within some parameters where the blessings are there, but it's not so transactional. Because I got into coaching for the transformative means, and that's what I witnessed from the coaches that coached me, from my father and the other great coaches that I played for. And so it makes you think and wonder, man, does my way still work, to build culture and team? And when really in a lot of these transactional deals now, there's really only one side that's really locked in to the process, and that's unnerving and a little concerning. And is it going to change? I don't know. I don't know what the answers would be, but I sure wish it was just really, we coaches just wish, man, it's the same for every single state, every single school, the budget's the same to benefit these players. You just kind of wish that it was more black and white and really cut and dried as to kind of how everybody should operate in this new world. And man, I remember, back when at Ole Miss, when I was at Ole Miss, someone, I don't know who, had the idea of, hey, let's be proactive with this, and let's put in $50,000 a year to an account. After the freshman is academically successful, and sophomore, give him 75 after that, and then maybe 100 after his junior year. And when he graduates with his degree, that money is sitting there in an account for him to start his life with, whether it's NFL or not. And I think back to all those discussions, and it just makes you think, man, I wish we could have really seen all of this coming and maybe put some parameters around it. But man, how do they say it? The horse has left the barn now, and how do you change that? That's way beyond my ability to think through, probably. But I do think it's for coaches that have been in it a long time. And I haven't been in the SEC as long as many of the others, but it's a different dynamic to the transactional way versus the old way of, man, this process is gonna help you be better as a man, as a player, in life. You're gonna learn lessons, and they're hard lessons sometimes, and they're difficult, and you gotta stick with it, and you gotta fight through it, and you gotta work your way up a depth chart, and it's gonna pay you dividends later on. And man, we all, I think, worry a bit that that's a greater challenge now.
How much, one more. How much tampering did you deal with at Liberty, and how does a change of scenery and going to a bigger school affect how you view that?
I don't I don't remember really any tampering at Liberty, truthfully, that concerned me. So, I'm sure if I would have been there, Demario decided to go pro, but I'm quite sure somebody would have come after him this past year, and we had quite a few leave there after I chose to come here and go other places. Whether or not that was just their decision or some people influencing them, I don't really know. I've instructed our guys, we don't do that, and we get, you hear all the things all the time. Well, this player may go in. All right, we'll go watch him. That's what we do, but we don't, we better not be, trying to reach out and trying to influence people's decisions on whether or not they're going in the portal. But again, I I don't know the percentage, but I think there's so many players that are involved in these players now, and I'm not talking about coaches at the college level, but there's a lot of people that are involved that are trying to insert themselves or have been asked to insert themselves. I don't know, but there's a lot of that that's going on.
All right, Coach, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Little Italy.